lights during the dance. All right, so running through the examples here, we mentioned the first one up here for 5 years ago. That would be, if we can get there we go. That would be an allusion to Abraham Lincoln with the 7 years ago. Now, for this second example that we have here, the 100 years later, that's the second blank that we're taking a look at. So we have 100 years later, followed by 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of the vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later. So this second one, what are we going to be putting down, since we've heard it multiple times at the beginning of the clause or sentence?
Anaphora.
That's going to be the anaphora, or anaphora, depending upon your pronunciation. Now, the one that we have up here, crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination, what would be things that we have? Like, JT, what would you do for that one?
I did assonance.
Okay, so and this is where we can get multiple things starting to take place. Where do you hear that repetition?
Segregation and discrimination.
Okay, segregation, discrimination, and even like manacles, you get a little bit of it taking place within there. But yeah, you certainly with discrimination, segregation, could be going assonance. Dom, do you have something else?
Yeah, we said metaphor.
Okay, you could certainly go metaphor because there aren't literal manacles and chains of discrimination taking place, and I could see some, in the sense that you're not actually going to be crippled by those things. Okay. Yep, parallelism would be working there. Folks who go imagery, so there's multiple things that could be working with it. Now keep in mind for your quiz, it's not that here's an example, identify, come up with your own term, but you certainly could have where there's carryover, multiple possibilities would work for some things. Guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Lindsay, what do you have for this one? Yep. Which I think most people recognizing allusion to Declaration of Independence. Again, he's not saying in the Declaration of Independence or, quote, guarantee the unalienable rights, but people would certainly recognize that that's what we are referring to. Dylan, what do you think about next one? Defaulted on the promissory note.
We said it was an analogy.
Okay. How come not a metaphor?
Because it's like an extended kind of metaphor going on.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So remember, an analogy is going to be extended metaphor or a long simile where you don't just make that one-time comparison, but you keep going back to that idea over and over and over again. So we have this reference to the promissory note that they have defaulted on it, insufficient funds, a bad check, bank of justice, insufficient funds again within the great vaults. We have come to cash this check. So multiple times you're going back to that bank metaphor or reference, and that's why analogy is going to be more exact than simply just going metaphor for it. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now it's time to lift our nation. Chris, you want to take this one?
Yes. I say, wait, 1 second, anaphora.
Basically, if I go Chris, you can probably just say anaphora.
Yes.
Well, probably be correct.
Or antithesis.
How about sweltering summer? It's not anaphora.
No, it's not. I know.
Emily? Here you go. Yep, alliteration would work. David, did you go alliteration?
I did.
Okay. Anyone do anything else? I would expect most to go alliteration. I could see imagery getting mentioned, sweltering summer, so you're appealing to senses again. It could be feel, not just things that you would certainly see. But yeah, sweltering summer absolutely could go alliteration. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges.
Antithesis.
How come?
Because it's just kind of like this contrasting idea with like revolt shaking the foundations of the nation, but then like, and then this emergence of justice.
Okay. Anything else?
It's like personification. Revolt will shake the foundations of the nation.
They're not literally going to shake. And personification, we did not list as a type of eloquence, but certainly still would be. I mean, we know it's a metaphor. I think some people would go whirlwinds, with revolt, kind of get that alliteration sound taking place. Metaphor, I could certainly see some folks mentioning imagery, David. Imagery. So, yeah, certainly a clear example where you can get a lot of things taking place with it. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. Maddie, what'd you do for that one? Metaphor, because there's not really going to be a cup of bitterness or hatred. Again, with that idea of bitterness, I could see imagery coming in, the whole idea of taste. Seek to satisfy, you could certainly argue alliteration with some parts of that. We must forever conduct our struggle in the high place of dignity and discipline. Brooklyn, what do you have for alliteration with the D and D? Marvelous new militancy. Alliteration. And my writing of alliteration gets messier and messier as we go. Chris, you got the next one.
Anaphora.
You an anaphora or an aphra?
Anaphora.
You're anaphora.
Anaphora sounds weird.
I thought last year that's how he said it.
I usually say anaphora.
Yeah.
I might have said anaphora just to mess with you.
This year he said to mess with me. Not last year.
We will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Simile, because we have like going there. And again, I could certainly see people maybe mentioning things like imagery and whatnot, but with the use of like getting used twice, simile absolutely would jump out. And we haven't used that one yet. Trials and tribulations. Joey, what do you have? Alliteration. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia. Anaphora. I could also see what else getting used for this one as well. Yeah, like parallelism, parallel structure definitely getting used. And it wouldn't matter which one you use. I mean, you going anaphora does not make it incorrect by any means. But there is certainly a lot of similarity with the sentence structure since you have go back to and then the state taking place where that parallelism would be there. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. Ethan, how about the first one, today and tomorrow?
Alliteration.
Okay. And then what about the next one? I still have a dream. It is a dream. Antimetaboly is going to have that same structure, but it's in reverse. I would say you could certainly go with one of the A1s.
Antithesis.
No, I'm thinking that one. Yeah, anadiplosis. And I could see where people maybe not thinking of it quite as much because of the terms, it is a at the beginning. But essentially what's getting done is you're ending the sentence with dream, and then you're beginning that next one with dream. Now, yes, you do have a couple small words in the front that kind of disrupt maybe that from being a true anadiplosis, but certainly that concept of ending with it and then beginning with dream again. This one, if you see quotation marks, you pretty much know we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. Sam, we have...
Oh.
There you go. Have a dream that one day, Red Hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I could see a ton of things going for this one. David?
Personalization.
I can see a bunch of things.
Except that one. I mean, you do have the use of I, but I would say it's not as clear-cut personalization as the other example that we have. But there are some other options out there.
Metaphor.
You can have metaphor, because there's not going to be literally the table of brotherhood. Imagery.
Alliteration.
Yeah, because we have, where to go?
Slaves,
Sons, yeah, and together at the table of brotherhood. You could argue parallel structure. Some could even go with antithesis, son of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners. You wouldn't normally expect those things to be together, but it's helping to emphasize this point. A state sweltering with heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression. That's going to be a pretty strong parallelism taking place, although, again, could see imagery, could see folks maybe mentioning alliteration with the state and sweltering.
Could it be antithesis? State sweltering and then sweltering with heat.
The only thing with antithesis is you have things that normally would, like, they're kind of contradictory.
Yeah, sorry.
Where, like...
Anti-metabolite word then? Since that's also parallelism, okay.
Sweltering with the heat of injustice. No, I don't think so. David, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation.
You got this.
No.
Oh wait, yeah, I can say it now. Personalization.
There you go.
Caleb told me to say that, so I'm not a joke.
Now, and here's the difference. Yes, you have I have a dream, and up above we had I have a dream, even right here. But in this part, he is bringing in his personal life, people close to him, friends, family, which ends up giving it a little stronger viewpoint of that. There you go.
You should have done this for AP Lit instead of taking quizzes.